Welcome, and today I'm looking at how to alter and adjust reference images so the narrative of the painting is different, and so that we don't have to be stuck with the paint what you see kind of situation. We have in front of us the reference image, which is a American Gothic house that's fallen into a bit of disrepair. What I'd like to look at is making it look as though it were back in its day when it were being used as a house. Now I want to also add other elements to give you that narrative that we are actually in the 19th century or something like that, and we'll see from our painting how doing that and keying them all together will bring about the end painting. In my painting, what I've done is I've cleaned up the building so it looks modern and new for its time. I've also added extra characters to the narrative of the painting, such as the horse and cart and the lady waiting for the horse. This all adds to that narrative of what I'm trying to put over as the building is back in the old days. But to tie it all together, I've made sure that the tonal images have all got shaded parts that all link in with one another, and I'm doing it in a very loose way. I'll make a start today by wetting the areas of the painting that I want to be painting at this time, just with normal everyday water. I'll then start applying some blue areas. This is ultramarine blue, and I'm using a fairly big oval brush here to apply paint to a large area of the painting. And if you notice, I'm using that same colour throughout the entire area of the painting, and especially focusing in on areas that might be potentially in the dark shaded areas. This is where I'm adding this blue, so you get a key overall colour throughout the painting. To counterbalance that, I'm going to use a yellow ochre to create some warm areas, and again I'm doing that throughout the painting in areas that I think are going to have light areas or mid-tones. The very light areas will be left white or very creamy. The building itself is a very white, creamy coloured building. Popping a hint of red there to represent the lady, and then we'll get on with continuing to add some darker tones into the areas that I feel will eventually be in the shade. Before we go any farther, I ought to mention that I'm using my White Nights watercolour paints, and I'm painting on a 425 grams knot paper, which is £200 paper. So we're moving on, and we're creating areas of tonal value, like for example in the windows, the right hand side of the lady there, and we start to try and tie in some of the shade. Obviously this first layer of shading will fade back a lot, and we'll have to rework it on several occasions during the painting. That ties to what will eventually be the tree, and creating these connections in painting really does help the fluid look of the painting. We're getting a few bits of green in there, slightly darker areas against the yellowy colour, just to add again some colour value adjustment, and also giving it some directional brush strokes to make it seem as though it's coming forward. As you can see, I'm now putting the darker values into the right hand side of the tree, and the light is obviously coming from above and from the left, so anything on the right hand side will be tending towards the darker side of things, and it's just looking for things like that. And we don't really need to be doing ultra detailed work with it, because if you get the tonal values right, that'll do the work for you. In this part of the painting, we're really working as much as we can with the mid-tones, and later on we'll add some more layers that will give it a much more punchier feel, make it look more three-dimensional. Working a little bit now with the horse, getting some of the dark areas there, and by using this set of techniques you can really create a very strong image without doing an awful lot of extremely detailed work, because you're allowing the tonal values to create shapes for you. And this is the Anson cab with the guy driving it there at the back. And again, don't be just colouring it in with one really dark colour. Try and variate the values in that, and that will help with giving that also some strong sense of depth. And what we do here, we do in various areas, so that there's a continuation throughout the image. This is a 12-minute video, but the actual painting itself in real time took about 46 minutes. That doesn't include the drawing up and designing of the image itself, the reference. But as you can see now, I'm going in with much more aggressive, darker tonal areas, which helps to create even more reality to the depth of the actual building. In our earlier layer, we linked in the trees with the shadows, and we're just going to re-emphasize that, because when paint dries it kind of gets a bit weaker. So we're going to go back over it. That's some bits of light showing through the shadow, and again that helps with the sense of depth. And for the rest of the painting, really it's about re-emphasizing small areas, and they get smaller and smaller, these areas of intensely strong paint. And again we're going back over, it's almost detail work, the dark that I'm putting in now, in comparison to the earlier wash, which was all over the paper totally. I'm just working very tiny little bits of area with very strong paint now, and moving on to starting to get this foreground tree into the picture, because that really frames the left side of the tree. We've got this first layer in there, and I'm putting bits of detail as well in, and again I'm re-emphasizing some of the areas that have gone dark again. And this tree at this side also does the same. It kind of frames the house nicely, so I wanted that to be in it, and I put a very bold, strong colour in there. It's a very dark bluey green colour, that. and we're continuing to get that shadow to link up more and have a bit more strength in certain areas, as it is a key point to the painting. It does add a lot of atmosphere, and it helps make the image cohesive and all one image. So very thin transparencies of colour just to carve out some of the image, and I've just put a little a brolly kind of thing for the lady to have in the hot weather. So again, a lot of this now is getting bits of textured detailing. Once the layer on the tree on the left hand side is dry, we can go over again and add some more strong colours. And it's starting to come together. You start seeing things looking like three-dimensional objects, which is what we wanted it. And all they are is little dots and blobs now, and we've created something that has a real sense of depth. I don't want to be going over the top with detail because I think that would spoil it, and we're trying to do a loose painting anyway. So we're coming towards the end of the painting. I'm just doing little bits of touching up the painting now, make sure that they're all nice and loose and together. So this is really my painting, and last but not least, I'm going to sign it and put my name there and call that a finished painting. And I hope this has been informative for you and you've enjoyed it. We'll see you on another video next time we do one. Okay, thank you and bye.